Exactly, and I think there is already something we can announce. I have been pretty busy, and people have been like, "Aren't you doing books anymore?" Now, so I started working on a course. It's a course that Wagner told me he has been approached a few times. It's about Xdata. So the course will tell you how to get started with Xdata, and from there we take an example scenario. But before we start with the example scenario, we start to build a template that you can use for all your future Xdata projects. And thankfully, because I have Wagner at my side, he could say, hey, include this, 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 this. This could be in there. And he also reviewed it. And parts of it are also being used in my books. But this is literally a step-by-step video tutorial for you how to start creating the Xdata project. And I suggest we look at it actually, because we have the curriculum available already.
Okay. And while you share your screen, it's interesting that we use this different kind of media, right? Because you are a very nice book author, which is a specific type of media, of content. And now that you're saying we are going to see it now, you have built your content and with a very hands-on and template-based approach. This is also a media that fits well because you have the videos, you provide the source code. I believe you are going to show you the source code, the steps. So it's a very interactive way of learning, right?
Exactly. And you see here the very first view, public view of the course, so to speak. So there is nothing in there that is, see, I'm still busy preparing the content. And let's go to the preview page where you can see the view, what it's going to look like for you. And again,
and also as an introduction, this idea came from actually this idea is from Holger, but I said to him, this is a very opportune content because I receive as the TMS business author and main Xdata author and main supporter, right? It's very, people are asking, are really eager for a content to learn because without false models, Xdata is a very nice framework to build backend applications with Delphi. But it requires, for beginners, it requires a little bit of knowledge. Even the learning curve is not that steep, but it does require. And Holger is the best person to show that content in a very, he understands the user needs. He's a user himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not the author, he's the user. So he has a very understanding of what the user struggles with and what the questions that the user asks when learning Xdata and trying to build backend. So this is a very nice content that I've been asked for by the users that will help you out to guide you in the learning process of using Xdata, and not only Xdata. He'll show the content here. I believe there is a lot more involved here.
Yes, it's the key is for me, I remember things if I have a concrete example at hand. And if it's just academic, I don't remember stuff. And this gives you the ability, even if you're not going to do the same scenario, to, based on this, to build your own first web service with clients. And it really starts from installation, motivating why you need this in the first place. Why do you need Xdata and why should you consider it in your future project? And you start by creating a tiny little project with services, even though if you don't understand right now what are services, it's really, really detailed in the beginning. It also explains the structure of Xdata, how it fits into the TMS business hierarchy, and how the different parts of the application works. For example, what is a dispatcher? What is an Xdata server? You learn all of this, and also how to prepare your system, and also what you need to consider for deployment and stuff. And you add services, exemplary services, to get a feeling how to transfer data from A to B through a web service, and also how to show people what your web service can do in public, because, for example, Swagger UI is one of the topics that's big with Xdata. And then also JSON is being looked at briefly, but of course, and this is something I promise I'll never repeat stuff over and over and over again, that you can get for free somewhere else from me. So there is a How It Works with Holger series on JSON. So here I'll just briefly say, hey, this is how you can use JSON and Xdata. And if you need some more basic knowledge, you can look that up in the other videos as well. So the first sections are really creating the server and transferring data from A to B. And then we already start to add database connectivity. I'll explain that any database through FireDeck can be used. So we're going to use FireDeck because it's included in Delphi, connect to a database. And then I'll already get you to the idea that we're going to build a template. And this is what Wagner already a little bit hinted at. We're going to build a template that you can use for all your future projects. So you will be able to say, oh, in this project, I have this database. And you, with the configuration that is being included in this template, you just need to change the configuration, but not the programming of your template. So what you create is an Xdata starting point with a database for all your future projects. And I'll build it step by step, that along the road, you will learn all the different things to know about Xdata, which properties, which events, how to structure your project, which architecture to choose. We'll touch the singleton pattern, for example, because I think the singleton pattern serves us nicely there. We'll also touch on things that people are afraid of, like I won't give you a multi-threading course, but I'm still going to mention, hey, what we're doing here, because in web service applications, they can come multiple requests at the same time. I'll show a solution, of course, with FireDeck that can be used exactly in this scenario. And
one question before you continue, since you are, it looks like it's overwhelming. It's a lot of content. But one question that users might be asking now is, what's the minimum requirement, minimum knowledge that a person has to have to properly follow the course? Is it an intermediate? What does the requirement so that the student doesn't get lost in the course?
Yeah, I say that as well. I think the best requirement to say is this shouldn't be your first Delphi application. I require that you have knowledge in the VCL and know the Delphi language. So that's a requirement. I won't go into detail with that. But even that can be, say, such a generalization. For example, anonymous methods, generics are rather new in the Delphi language. So I give that a little bit more of an explanation during the course. But how to use the IDE, how to enter source code, how to flip between the form designer, and these kind of things I expect you know, how to change properties in the form designer, how to move files in the project manager. So it's not beginner level from the programming with Delphi point of view, but it's definitely beginner level, and this is the key for people that want to learn about web services and multi-tier applications with web services. That's definitely beginner level, because I start from installation step by step and explain it all in quite a lot of detail. And
from what I know from your books, I know you got into every details. I was amazed by how you, for example, how you you were building an application and adding some buttons to a form and explaining how the vector stuff works. So it's very it's unsurprising, but it's also very nice to hear that, for example, you go into explaining a little deeper, even things like generics and anonymous methods. So I think that the users can be very comfortable that they will not get lost by lots of complex stuff right away. Yeah. So you are really guiding the user, the student, through the course.
Yeah, how to create the configuration files, how to add resources to your executables, how to spice up the user interface, people will say, oh, who sees the server user interface? Well, you are the developer. Why wouldn't you treat yourself to user interface that gives you some access to the server features, that gives you like nice log output, that you can have the log not only in a file but can copy it to the clipboard quickly. These kind of things are all in there. Tray icon, that the server is on a tray icon. And then the most important thing, I think that's the number one question you get asked, one of them, one of the number ones, that's not good English, but one of the most important questions you get asked is to say, can you run Xdata as a Windows service? So we're going to extend the template in a way that you can switch between Windows service and running it as an application. All of this might sound familiar who have read my book number 3. So this is not a copy of book number 3. I want to make this certain, but of course, as I showed in the book, hey, you can run Xdata as a Windows service as well. It's going to be the same. I can't basically, for the same framework, I can show different things. There might be similarities, especially if you look at this course, you might consider buying the book as well in order to repeat the knowledge, read about it. Sometimes it works better if you see it and read it, so the combination of things. But
I see logging there. Logging is a very common question as well.
Yeah, and logging isn't in the book, but it's in here, and I show it like very, very detailed in association with another great product from Wagner, TMS logging, which is another product that you have if you have the business suite. So you can hook that up to Xdata, explained as well, different means. You learn how to do it into the event log, into the file, and on screen, and then all the pitfalls that I've found myself into, and there might even be some, that's golden rule of mine. If I mess up while recording, I usually leave it in, so you see what a common pitfall is. The one that I fell into, just briefly, if you have logging to a control that is on a form, you register that with a logging system, of course. Let's say you close that form, it's no longer visible, it might not even be in memory anymore, but your server keeps running and keeps logging. If you forget to tell the logging mechanism that this form is no longer there, guess what? It's going to cause an access violation because it tries to log to an edit control or memo control that's no longer there. Your application blows up, and this is all covered in the logging section. Another big one, access control, username, password, first explained very, very generic, but we're going to focus on the JWT token. It's not the Java Web Token, as I always want to say, it's the JSON Web Token. And there is a middleware for that, so we also go deep slightly into how middlewares work. And then I also show how you can use the token support in Swagger UI, how you create a login service.
In summary, how to secure your API, right?
Correct, how to secure it. I also, this is something I forgot to mention, you might be like, oh, why doesn't he have HTTPS in there? I motivate that as well, that again, learn from Wagner. In our exchanges, for Xdata, it doesn't really make a difference, you just choose a different endpoint. But the key thing to remember is, and that's what I motivate in this course, concentrate on the development, and you might refer to an administrator or just use a reverse proxy for HTTPS and just develop HTTP and don't focus on that at all. So, and at that point, we have the template, and you see, so you have access control, logging, Windows service, hybrid template, as I call it, all in there, and that will be your starting point. And before I confuse people even more, we try to make it short, but one thing we offer as well, and then again, suggestion from Wagner. Cut. So.
It's going well.
Yeah. All the source code is under version control. It has nothing to do that I recently became a Gitkraken ambassador. I had this before in Gitea on a server. So you can follow along the source code actually how I build it step by step. And another program log.
Can you hear the noise here?
Hardly. So, and it's natural. So, you know, I don't even. So what we did is you can see step by step how all the functionality of the whole course is being added. Like, for example, we start building certain, here you see the release of the template. What does that mean? Well, it actually means that in version control, you can go to releases and download the starting template as source code and fill it in with your own stuff. And how do you get to that point? You can look it up in the.
That's very cool. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I see here is, besides the content, you are providing the full source code of everything you are producing in the course. But not only that, is that you are providing the source code with a history that shows the evolution of that source code. What I think is interesting about this is that, for example, in Delphi, when I see a demo, for example, when I see a demo with a full working demo with lots of source code, sometimes you run and it works, but the code is too complex. The final code sometimes is too complex. It's like, for example, when you have a RAD with lots of components in the form, and there is no line of code, but the project is working, and you wonder, okay, lots of properties have been modified here at design time, but we don't know which one. So it's nice if you have the time. It's more value to the course, because if you have time and you have curiosity, you can start from previous commits from the source code, and you can see the evolution of the source code. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong again. You can even follow a lesson and see the source code that is respective to that lesson in the Git repository. Then you see exactly the source code that was produced in that lesson. Then you go to the next lesson and see the source code evolving. Is that right?
Correct. Like for most clients that like start building the VCL import client, finish the VCL import client. Those are two tags: start the VCL chart, stop the VCL chart, preparations for the web client, and these kind of things are all there, and you can go through the different steps if you want to. But if you're not into that, you can also simply download everything, you get the whole folder structure, and that's it. So you can literally pick and choose, but I think your number one go-to will be the starting template, because as you see here, it has the starting point with configuration files, and you will be able to extend these configuration parameters. For example, I just have product name and copyright. If you want, in addition to the product name, a company, tagline, or whatever, you can add that. You learn how to work with these INI files and resource files and all that, very, very detailed. Yeah, and as I said, in addition to learning how to build the server side, you also learn about the client side. And first of all, we go into database design, and then you learn about, first, of course, building the web service for the concrete example. I haven't shown the concrete example yet.
And it also implicitly shows one of the many advantages of having a multi-tiered application is that once you have the server, you can have different types of clients. You see Holger explain how and why it's good and easy to have that architecture, because you can have multiple clients in web and VCL and desktop and web, with but having your business logic centralized and secure in a central server.
Correct. And database model, for example, this is the example. There is a long introduction explaining the demo and everything in detail, but this is for the database model, just to give an example how detailed everything is. Online spin classes, and it allows you to track your workouts. You can make it simpler. I say this at the end of the course when you basically have seen it all. Like think about track your daily water intake, and think about the user interfaces you can build, web application, mobile application. All of that can be fed into a data storage where you keep like each record, and then you can build um, lists like monthly intake, yearly, and these kind of things. And we monitor nowadays our data. Like I'm wearing a watch right now that monitors everything. And the first idea that I had when I built this was like taking the data from an Apple Watch and transmitting it. That is even possible with this web service that we built. HealthKit, though, is not accessible easily through Delphi. So I said, like, well, let's take a different approach. And the approach that I took is comma separate. The approach that I took are comma separated files that are being extracted from my exercise bike. And then you can upload them to the web service into the data source. So you learn how to upload data through your web service as well. So it's not only read, but also edit. And database-wise, you'll need users for the access control, items, workout items, and instructors. That's something I added because that was the first question I had to Wagner when I dealt with it a little bit. How about foreign key constraints and joins? And so you'll learn about that too. And
you got into that level of detail.
Yes. So you see here you have on the items, you have start time, end time, ID user, which is a foreign key. So and I show this, and this is something Wagner might not like as much. I show this from the non-Aurelius side, I should say, because Xdata and Aurelius are closely tied together in a way. But I show this from the database developer side with SQL statements, how you can return data through these kind of things. This is the complete database model. Very simple.
I think it's nice because that's one common question. I want to use Xdata, but I don't want to use Aurelius, for example. So you are giving the users, and also I believe this way you focus on a specific content, right? Aurelius is already a complex content, and it's very nice. So that you approach it that way, because you are already going into a lot. Like I said, I was surprised how much how much deep you are going into details. So just worrying about the database and explaining things to the user is already, it's already interesting.
Yeah, here you see the server login. This is the running server that you learn how to build it with copy logs, Varga UI support. And here you see all the different methods. I'm not going to go into that much detail. I just want to show there is a lot to explore and learn. And let me show one more thing. So during the course, we'll build multiple clients, three. How do I show three in the camera? Three fingers. And two of them are VCL based, and one of them is even web based. More to the web later. Let me show the VCL import. You learn how to import data from a comma separated file that is built a certain way. You also learn about date time values, universal time. Then the comma separated file has the time in a specific format. You learn about T-format settings, converting time between different time zones, that kind of stuff. Because in the client, of course, you want to show the local time. You don't want to show the time that it is in universal time, Zulu time. You want to show the time of the person, and Delphi can do that now. You'll learn to work with data sets on the client side. I'll show that real quick here. Windows 32 debug. So here we have a client application. It connects to the server. How do I know? Well, let's open up the server right here. And I hope this is visible. So if I log in and type in my very, very complex login, really secret, and let's look here for the logging message. As soon as I click OK, boom, I get like a 200 here from the login. The logging works. And now I can get all the workouts. I see here is the request from the client, and here are all my workouts. And it only shows the last 30 days, I didn't import any new data after May 6th. And so if I chart this, I only
You
get a
didn't,
very
or you didn't, or you haven't worked it out. Confess now.
I didn't import, I can be honest. No, I didn't import, I worked out. But that's when I stopped recording the course, and that's the last time I imported the data. So this uses even charting. So you learn about charting as well, charting your data. And all, of course, behind access controls. You wouldn't be able to access this without being logged into the service. And the final client that we're going to build is the web client. So the last client you're going to learn about is the web client, and web is something special for Wagner because he has done a course on TMS Web Core. And again, we don't want to repeat stuff or basically bother you with stuff that you already learned in other courses. So you can, if you're unfamiliar with TMS Web Core completely, the beginner course is Wagner's. Wagner did a TMS Web Core course, or there's also a TMS Web Core book for beginners, but this will teach you how you can use TMS Web Core with the web service that we're building. And in addition to what Wagner covered in his course, because Wagner did his course, they did it right after the release of TMS Web Core a couple of months. TMS Web Core didn't have the features that it has today. For example, the await keyword makes it much, much easier. And of course, Wagner extended Xdata. So this is what I'll focus on. I'll focus on access control, using the new functionality, reading the token, using the token that we use for access control, and then sending a request without specifying anything, sending the token with it, and then the web service responds for that logged in user specifically and returns something that only that user is supposed to see. In this case, very, very simple. You have a login and a password, and when you're logged in, you can request your name. You know, that sounds stupid, but it's a separate request, of course, because with a login and password, it doesn't have to be your full name. And nobody should be able to request a full name or address or any email information without being logged in from a web service. So that's the example. But that's also the reason why the web core section is more or less the shortest, because the basics are covered by another course from Wagner. And I just repeat the Xdata specific stuff that has changed recently. So let's look real quick at the course inside of the IDE. All projects are inside of one project group, server template. I never renamed it. I left it server template. You can also rename it to workcode service. Then the import, the VCL client that you just saw, and of course the TMS Web Core project. Let me run this because I haven't shown it yet. It's running inside of the browser, of course. So here, login, password, Holger, and if we press F12, we actually see what's going on behind the curtain, really secret. The login, there's the login. I get the token, and now this token will be used for the next request. What is my full name? And I see my full name. Okay, and this is all very cryptic if you haven't done the course yet, but only the server knows who this token belongs to, and you'll learn all about tokens, the information you can store in it, and so on. So this course is very extensive.
If you go back to the server and client, the desktop server and client windows there, that you show it with the login and workout.
Oh yeah, of course.
That one.
It's just
that one. And the
just
client.
just like as you can see here, just like on the other client.
What I'm saying is, users, you at the end of the course, you have the user you built from scratch this server, the VCL client, and the web client, all from scratch, and all explaining all the steps to do that.
Correct. That is literally what I'm with the database model, and something I totally forgot. We're going to use Firebird as a database, which you can download freely from the internet, and I give you even the steps how to set up that server. And it's everything is step by step. So there is There might be some stuff where I had to go over it a little bit quicker, but we are already at over 14 hours for this course. So there's a lot of content.
That's very cool. Well, I think this is will really be very useful and very interesting for users trying to learn. Actually, if you look at it, it's not even about Xdata or TMS, or it's about you are explaining how to get Delphi and create a multi-tier application, a simple one, because you don't have 100 hours to create one, but from scratch, you create a server and a client for an application that has all the elements of, even if it's small application, of a big application, the database, the Windows service that runs, the connection to the database pool, the services, the business logic inside your multi-tier application, and how to connect via HTTP from the web and from the client to connect to the. So it's just explaining and how to create a multi-tier application with Delphi from scratch. I think this is valuable content in these days for every Delphi developer.
Yes, thank you. And I emphasized this a couple of times in the course. It doesn't really matter how many attributes you have in your database or how many tables you have. The basic structure, if you understand the architecture, how to basically build your services for the different tasks that you have, and get into this analogy that if you want to do something on the client, you need to do something on the service as well. As soon as that becomes part of your daily work, just like you today, you write your SQL query, you build your form, that becomes part of your daily work, just with the difference that you also need, in addition to the SQL statement, you need the service in the middle. It at some point, by repetition, it becomes natural to you. And Delphi is a great tool because the source code, and this is another aspect of the course, the source code is very maintainable compared to other languages and compared to other frameworks out there. Also, because you have different projects, you literally have a project for the server and a project for the client. It is very much maintainable for the future as well.
That's awesome. Well, actually, congratulations, Holger, for this accomplishment. I'm sure it was a lot of work. If it's 14 hours of recording, I'm sure that your work was multiple times that time to produce that, to produce the recording, to architecture the course, to code everything. So really, congratulations for your effort. And I think this is the first step of our partnership that will be very, very excited. I'm very excited with this course, with this partnership. More content will come, and I hope you guys that are watching us are really excited with this course as us. And to learn more about it, if you're watching this from YouTube or another media, you can go to courses.landgraph.dev, which is the main website that has this Holger Flick course about Xdata listed there. But you can also receive more news. Also visit the flixengineering.com and landgraph.dev for our blog. And as I said, the main is courses.landgraph.dev. There is all information there for you to the course, and to contact us, of course, if you have any questions about this course or Delphi in general. Any final words, Holger?
No, I think hopefully this course is interesting, and of course, that is something I say in the course multiple times as well. If there is feedback, send it to us. We happily listen. Of course, I have already more ideas what to do next, and Wagner is never shy of suggestions either. But if you have suggestions for future stuff, just like with how it works with Holger, send it to us. We'll definitely consider it. So thanks, Wagner, for the invite again, and take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.